Before we get into today's game, I want to talk about the sponsors for my channel. Card Conduit is the best way to sell your unused Magic cards. Whether you've got a box of unsorted bulk, or a complete and alphabetized set, there's a great option for everyone. With a payout averaging 19% better than using any one buy list, and that's after fees are applied, you can rest assured you'll get the best bang for your buck. If you're a skeptic like me, their easy customer service and detailed reports make the whole interaction transparent and safe. And if you use the affiliate link in the description below, or the promo code MTGMUDSTA, you'll save 10% off their fees. And 401 Games, Canada's one-stop shop for trading cards, board games, and hobby supplies. Not to mention an easy to use and great online buy list. And if you use the promo code MTGMUDSTA, your first purchase of MTG sealed and singles will be 5% off. And Dragon Shield, the strongest sleeves for your strongest deck. So be sure to use the code MUDSTA or the affiliate link down below to save 5% on your next order. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's patron shoutout goes to Adam. Thanks Adam for supporting the channel. Also, just to let you know, May 15th is my birthday, and we'll be live streaming some EDH games that evening, so feel free to join us and come wish me a happy birthday. In today's game, we have Arja, John, and Mathieu rejoining us. And Arja has decided that more commanders is better commander, and he's playing Wernog, Bjorna as partners, and combining Lurrus as his companion. His opening hand has a Mirror Retriever, Cranial Plating, Novice Inspector, Big Score, Island, Verdant Catacombs, and Spire of Industry. John is playing his Neheb deck, and he's keeping Light Up the Stage, the Reaver Cleaver, Crackle with Power, Stranglehold, 2 Mountains, and Boom and Bust. Matt just wants to make some piles all over the table, and he's playing the Celestial Toymaker, keeping Sword of Wealth and Power, Orzhov Signet, Plains, Island, Swamp, and an Arcane Sanctum. Last but not least, no one's taking me up on my outrageous tier in Patreon, so I'm playing my Mistform Ultimus deck. I keep Island, Patron Wizard, Castle Vantress, Sword of the Anime, Pip-Boy 3000, Voldian Hexcatcher, and a Seat of the Synod. Arja wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws and plays a Verdant Catacombs. He sacrifices it, losing 1, and finds a Godless Shrine, and then taps that so he can cast Novice Inspector. I draw, play an Island, and cast Pip-Boy 3000, passing to John after that. John's just got a Mountain. Matt draws and then plays a tapped Arcane Sanctum. Arja's turn has him playing a Spire of Industry, and he pays a life from it so he's able to cast Wernog. All of Arja's opponents decide to take the damage instead of giving him an extra clue, and he then moves to combat. He swings the Inspector at John, dealing 1, and passing to me. My turn has a Castle Vantress coming in, and I then cast a Voldalian Hexcatcher and pass to John. John draws and plays a Mountain. He passes after that. Metcha's got a Swamp for turn, and pays 2 mana for an Orzhov Signet. Arja draws and plays a tap Xander's Lounge. He then casts Cranial Plating, and he goes to combat. He swings Wernog at me, and the Inspector at Matt, and we each take the 1. With nothing else, Arja passes. I draw and play an Island. I then pay 2 to equip the Pip-Boy onto the Hexcatcher, and I go to combat. I swing the Merfolk at Arja, untapping 2 lands with the Pip-Boy trigger, and he takes the hit for 1. In my second main phase, I then cast Sword of the Animist and pass to John. John just plays a Mountain, and then pays 3 mana for the Reaver Cleaver, and passes after that. Mathieu plays an Island, and is able to cast the Celestial Toymaker. Once his commander resolves, he passes. Arja draws and plays an Island. He then casts Reverse Engineer, drawing 3. He then casts a Tarian Soul Cleaver, and he moves to equip Wernog with the Cranial Plating, and then goes to combat. He swings Wernog at Matt for 5, who takes the hit. Arja then passes to me. My turn has me playing an Island, and I pay 2 to equip the Sword of the Anime onto the Hexcatcher, and I then swing it at Arja. I get to grab an Island from an on-attack trigger, and untap 2 islands as well because of the Pip-Boy. Arja then takes the 2, and after combat, I play Patron Wizard and pass to John. John draws for turn, but is having trouble finding things to play. He casts Light Up the Stage, exiling a Mountain, and Chandra's Ignition. He then plays the Mountain from exile, and passes to Matt after that. Matt draws and goes to combat. He swings the Toymaker at Arja, and he gets to make 2 piles. Arja decides to give him the face-up pile with a Fight or Flight, and Arja then takes 2 commander damage. Matt then plays a Plains in his second main phase, and he casts Fight or Flight. He then passes through to his end step, and drains us for 2 with the Toymaker, and we then move to Arja's turn. Arja draws, playing Silver Bluff Bridge, which comes in tapped. He then equips the Soul Cleaver onto Wernog, and then as he moves to combat, Fight or Flight triggers. This has Mathieu making them into piles, and Arja decides to only attack with Wernog, so he swings it at me for 6. I take the hit, and after that, Arja moves through his phases, and during his end step, the Toymaker deals 2 to us, and Arja passes. My turn has a Seat of the Synod coming in, and I then cast Rhystic Study. I then go to combat, and Mathieu once more makes 2 piles. I decide to attack with the Hexcatcher from Fight or Flight, and swing it at him for 2. I get to find an island, and get to untap 2 lands. In my post-combat main phase, I play Mistform Ultimus, and moving to my end step, the Toymaker deals 2 to all of Matt's opponents again. John draws, and plays a mountain. He's then able to cast Neheb, and as he moves to combat, Mathieu once more gets to use Fight or Flight. John then passes to his end step, and once more the Toymaker deals 2 to each of Matt's opponents. Mathieu draws and goes to combat. He swings the Toymaker at Arja, once again making a 1-card face up and 2 cards face down piles. Arja decides to give him Sauron's Ransom, and Arja then blocks with Wernog. Before moving to damage, Mathieu casts Go for the Throat and targets Wernog and takes him out. With Wernog dying, Arja gets a trigger, and we all decide to take 1 again instead of giving him more clues. After that, Mathieu passes through his phases, and once more the Toymaker deals 2 to us, and Arja decides to crack a clue token before moving to his turn. Arja draws and plays a tapped Jagged Barrens, dealing 1 to Matt. He then recasts Wernog, and he pays for the Rhystic Study trigger, and we all then take another 1 instead of giving him more treasures as Wernog comes in. Arja then goes to combat, triggering Fight or Flight, but can't attack and moves to his end step. This has the Toymaker once more dealing 2 to each of us, and we move to my turn. I draw and play an island. I then move the Sword of the Animist and Pip-Boy to Mistform, and then cast a Glasspool Mimic and have it come in as a copy of the Voldalian Hexcatcher. Going to combat, Mathieu splits my creatures into the Mistform and Patron Wizard in one pile, and Hexcatchers in another. And I decide to swing Mistform at Matt. I get to go and find an island, and decide to loot with the Pip-Boy trigger, and Mathieu then takes 6 commander damage. After that, we move to my end step, and because there was a pile made, Mathieu's commander deals 2 to each of us, and I pass to John. John draws and plays a mountain, and then pays to equip the Reaver Cleaver onto Neheb. He then goes to combat, which triggers Fight or Flight, and he decides to attack Mathieu with Neheb. Before moving to blocks, Mathieu uses Stroke of Midnight to destroy Neheb, and we all just allow it. This has John getting a human token, and he moves through his phases. During his end step, once more we all lose 2, and John then passes. Mathieu just draws and goes straight to combat. He swings the Toymaker at John, and reveals 2 cards face up and 1 card face down to the pile trigger. John gives him the lands, and chumps with a human token. In his second main phase, Mathieu plays a command tower. He then casts Golem, Scheming Guide, and as he moves to his end step, the Celestial Toymaker deals 2 to each of his opponents, and we move to Arja's turn. Arja draws and plays a Frostboil Snarl, which comes in tapped. He then casts Red Elemental Blast, and he targets Toymaker to destroy it. He then plays a Time Sieve, but I tap my Patron Wizard and 2 Hexcatchers to make him pay 3 extra. I then sacrifice the Glasspool Mimic to counter it with the Hexcatcher ability since I don't have enough wizards to tap. I draw and play Sliver Hive. I then cast a Seafloor Oracle and move to combat. This has Fight or Flight, giving Mathieu the choice of letting me attack with just Mistform or all of my other creatures, and I decide to go with just Mistform, swinging it at Mathieu. I get an island from the sword trigger, and untap 2 lands with the Pip-Boy trigger. Mathieu then takes it, and I get to draw a card from the Oracle. In my second main phase, I then cast Galecaster Colossus, and then activate it, tapping itself, to bounce Fight or Flight back to Mathieu's hand, and pass turn. John draws and just passes, moving to his end step. This has Mathieu using Dispark and targets the Galecaster Colossus. In response, I tap down my team of wizards to counter it thanks to Patron Wizard's ability, and with nothing else, we move to Mathieu's turn. Mathieu draws and plays an island. He then casts Sword of Wealth and Power and moves it onto Golem. He then swings Golem at me and has me guessing for Golem's ability. I pick land, which has Mathieu revealing an irrigated farmland, so Golem gets removed from combat. With nothing else, he passes turn. Arja draws and casts Savine's Reclamation and brings back Time Sieve. He then plays a Mere Retriever, paying the 1 for Rhystic Study. He then goes to combat and swings Wernog and the Novice Inspector at me, and I take the hit. After combat, Arja activates Time Sieve, sacrificing the Retriever, the Soul Cleaver, and his clues to take an extra turn. And with the Retriever dying, he gets to bring back the Soul Cleaver to hand. With nothing else, Arja passes. Arja's extra turn has him drawing, and then plays a Sacred Foundry untapped, taking 2. He then casts a Soul Ring, and pays the 1 for my Rhystic Study trigger. He then casts Big Score, and gets to make 2 treasure tokens. He's not done, casting Soul Cleaver, and he pays the Study tax, and once it's out, equips it onto Wernog. He then goes to combat, and swings at me for another 2, which I take. In his second main phase, he then activates Time Sieve, sacrificing Soul Ring, Cranial Plating, Silver Bluff Bridge, and a treasure to take yet another extra turn. Arja's third turn for turn 8 has him drawing and playing a mountain. He then casts Rowan's Grim Search without the bargain, drawing 2 and losing 2. He then cycles a Secluded Step, drawing a card, and then casts Bjorna. Going to combat, he swings at me with Wernog again, but this time it's for 6, and I take the hit and drop to 4. With nothing else, Arja passes. My turn has me playing an island, and I then cast Sword of Light and Shadow. I move it onto Mistform, and then cast Azami and go to combat. I swing Mistform at Mathieu, untapping 2 islands while going to search for another, and Mathieu then takes the hit. I then return Glasspool Mimic to my hand, and gain 3 life, and draw a card from the Seafloor Oracle. In my second main phase, I then play one of my favorite wizards, Master of Waves, and make 14 Elemental Horse tokens. I then move to my end step, discarding down to 7, and passing. John draws and casts Lightning Greaves, and he's also seen enough from Arja to know that Stranglehold is necessary, casting it, and is pleased to see it resolve. He then passes to Mathieu. Matt draws and goes to combat. He swings Golem at John, and makes Arja do the guessing this time. Arja chooses land, but Mathieu reveals Goldbug, and Golem untaps, draws him a card, and becomes unblockable. But before the damage happens, I tap my Guildcaster Colossus, and bounce Golem back to his hand, and this prevents the sword trigger. After combat, Mathieu then plays the backside of Goldbug, and then casts an Archmage Emeritus, and then plays Dimir Aqueduct, bouncing a land back to his hand, and passing to Arja. Arja draws and plays a Swamp. He then casts Oswald Fiddlebender, paying the 1 for the Rhystic Study trigger, and then plays out Wayfarer's Bauble, paying the 1 for that as well. He then casts Swiftfoot Boots, and doesn't pay the 1, and I get to draw a card. It resolves, and he moves to equip Oswald with them. With the ability on the stack, I bounce Oswald with the Galecaster Colossus ability, and with that plan done, Arja then decides to go to combat. He swings Wernog at John, who takes the hit. After that, Arja passes, and I use Azami during his end step to tap some wizards and draw 4 cards. I draw, and then play Mind Over Matter, which Matt tries to counter with an offer you can't refuse. I'm able to counter that though with Patron Wizard and tapping some wizards, and between Azami, Mind Over Matter, and revealing Thassa's Oracle that's been in my hand for a while, I'm able to draw out my entire library, and then win with a Thassa's Oracle trigger. Game review time. This game was 48 minutes and 27 seconds. And my goodness do I love my Mistform deck. I know so many people have told me to build Orvar, but better doesn't mean I'll enjoy it more. This game really showcased how powerful Pip-Boy 3000 was, and it might be my favorite new equipment in the last couple of years. The card always felt relevant, untapping lands, or looting stuff away, and I just love how the Mistform plays out with this. It's very combat-centric, but as you saw, sometimes you need a silver bullet when you can't kill all 3 opponents, and they're going to gang up on you and take you out. Matt's Celestial Toymaker deck was frustrating. It kept making us have to make decisions over and over again, which, is tough, because you don't know what the cards he's got hidden are. It was also very frustrating with that trigger going off every combat step, and we were getting drained very quickly as you saw. John's Neheb deck really didn't get any kind of footing going on. He almost was able to connect once, and I actually was able to save his commander if I'd wanted to, but it just felt like he was about to go off. Neheb decks seemed too explosive to be able to let connect even once, and it's really dangerous, especially with that Reaver Cleaver. I had to laugh when Arja brought out his Wernog Bjorna Lurrus deck, because he just kept saying that more commanders equal better commander. If you think about it, half of the legendary creatures in exile were on Arja's side of the board, which was kinda cool to see. Otherwise, it actually played pretty well. He had a lot of low-to-the-ground stuff, and it was really aggressive, especially with that cranial plating and the lance. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, but it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.